Sorry, the video had cut off because of the space that was on my phone, so I had to delete old videos, which I thought I had already done, but I didn't, apparently. So, giving that definition again is a force acting mutually between particles of matter, tending to draw them together and resisting their separation. And I think that really captures what goes on between couples. And uh, it seems to me that eventually the attraction in this ends regarding the world and how it where it says in the definition is that tending to draw them together and resisting their separation. Well, that may be true with the aspect of how this the earth functions and stuff like that, but when it comes to relationships, what brings separation is so many other things. So I was thinking about when I was taking notes is the what I call the stages of attraction. And of course, you have the couples meet. They engage in conversation. They talk about their likes, their dislikes, their aspirations, their goals, and their past experiences with relationships. And so if their conversation is good, then this progresses to a second date and meeting after. And so it gets to the point to where they choose each other. And then we have a commitment. And then finally marriage. So between stages 4 and 5, which is, choosing them and then commitment, the man must put financial goals in place or already have them. If he doesn't have them, first comes recommendations by her or her family, possibly by his family and friends and, those at church. If he doesn't have them yet, then there comes critical remarks about his status. And it reminds me of a guy that I knew in which he met this girl and he worked hard with a family member. And as he met her, she he knew obviously according to the world standards of what he needed to achieve and what he didn't achieve. And he knew what he had to do because the world states that. We're taught that at a young age of what we got to do in this world. And so he knew what he lacked financially and what he had to change. And so I guess maybe she told him that, and then he was told, what he had to do by her parents. And so, eventually I would say he succumbed to the way the world did things. And, it's hard not to in this world. Criticism is hard from people. Critical remarks, these expectations and responsibilities set on the shoulders, it beats a man into submission. I recall when my faith walk started, what God had told me, taking his words down, wanting to be obedient to him. I was introduced to this woman, and we talked a little bit in the presence of this older woman, and I told this woman about what I was doing for God, and it was like she had no interest in me whatsoever. Now, it could have been attraction. That's understandable. I mean, you're not attracted to somebody, there's not going to be any chemistry. So it could have been that, or maybe if she was attracted to me, what I said about what I did for God turned her off, because according to this world, I have nothing. And according to this world, I am nothing. So, when it comes to commitment in marriage, Jesus said a man leaves his father and mother and is united with his wife, and the two become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one. And what God has brought together, let no man separate. So what brings separation between love? Anything that is the focus other than the love between a man and a woman. Now, when a couple's married, they say their vows. And according to this world, vows are just words. When a man and a woman don't take them seriously. How many in Hollywood take their vows, yet you find out in the news how they cheated on each other and stuff like that? Vows are just words with people. There is no fear of God in each person to do what is right. The fear of the Lord should keep couples doing what they should do. Unfortunately, it's the world thinks pursuing financial success is a given. So, you have couples out there, they said their vows, but, if a man doesn't pursue what he is supposed to pursue in this world, apparently that gives her the right to get rid of him and go against any kind of vows. I've seen it myself. I've once heard of this woman that was talking with her pastor, and she said that he wasn't working full time. So what did she do? He gave her the okay to divorce him. So you could see that vows don't mean anything to a lot of people. So, like I had said at the beginning, it seems like it's a given in this world that everyone has to pursue financial success. Men have responsibilities and expectations on their shoulders that they have to achieve. And so with that in mind, it seems with people that it's a given, that it's okay to break your vows in marriage if a man is not doing what he's supposed to do in this world. Now, the world system of finances takes precedence over the quote-unquote union of two people. It's as if this thinking is universally agreed on and accepted everywhere. It's taught in the past of what a man has to do. So that's passed down to the next generation. And then it's continued to be passed down. I had said at another video that maybe it started as a recommendation, and then it turned into an ideal, and then finally it turned into a moral law that it seems like all men follow. So, getting back to the attraction issue, what attracts people to each other. I said that I can't see couples being attracted to one another because of money. I can't see that happening at all. What attracts them is, basically love. And so many romantic movies that we have seen through the years, we've seen movies regarding money and love, and they are a clue that there is something wrong with this set pattern. What I mean by this is that here we have a set pattern in this world that men and women follow, but we have movies out there that say the complete opposite. We have movies like The Wedding Singer, where Robbie and Julia met. She fell in love with him, not because of what he did, because of his character. She was with a wealthy man, and the world would give her a thumbs up, say, you got a good man there. But they didn't know about his issues, his cheating and stuff like that. He wasn't faithful to Julia. And so what she did, she chose Robbie. And in this world, that would be a foolhardy move. People would tell her, do you know what you're thinking? What are you doing? You're not thinking right. So you have an example here of a movie that is showing what's really important. And it's the love between two people. It's not about, money with the characters that are in this movie. And so Robbie was trying to more or less succumb, trying to be like everybody else in this world. She's like, Julia says, you don't want to be just another yuppie idiot, and he's like, why not? And then he was telling her that, he needs to get a good paying job. He can't live in his, sister's basement and stuff like that. And he said, we live in a material world. And, she was saying that that's not him. And so that was a clue, basically, of what is really important between a couple. And people could say, oh, it's about love. But when it comes down to it, eventually you're going to find out that in some ways people still hold on to the way the world does things. You can have a couple that said it's all about love, but really when it comes down to it, there is still some aspect that they hold on to. So the next movie I put down is Titanic, where you have Rose and Jack. They met. Here she's part of a wealthy family. She's marrying a guy that's wealthy. What's wrong with it? Well, he was controlling. And so she met Jack, who was poor. He had nothing, but she fell in love with him. His financial status didn't bother her. She pursued him and she wanted him. And lastly, I have The Notebook, where, Allie and Noah met. They fell in love. And here she could have eventually married this guy who was wealthy, who was approved by her parents. But she didn't feel that attraction with him the way she did with Noah. And so what happened at the end? She chose Noah, a guy who was obviously poor. He didn't have anything. But what he did have was love, real relationship. So these movies are a clue that this is what people need to follow, that their focus needs to be on one another. And they're not only movies give a clue, but songs. A couple that come to mind is the country song by Tanya Tucker, Two Sparrows and a Hurricane. Talks about how a couple meets at a young age, they fall in love, and no matter the storms in life, their love is for each other. They don't have finances in place, but it didn't matter to their love. And then they grow old together. So that's one example. The next is Two Princes by Spin Doctors, where, the key verse in that is marry him or marry me. I'm the one that loves you, baby. Can't you see? I ain't got no future or family tree, but I know what a prince and lover ought to be. So showing that this man didn't have anything, not like the other guy, but what was really important is what he had. He knows what a prince and lover ought to be. So love between a man and a woman is a love set by God. Vows taken before him keep each other in check. And that's what it should be. Anything that would come in the place of that love, if you're accountable to God, you're not going to allow that to happen. But the fact is that many marriages, that's what does happen, is the focus is on what people consider important, and that's money. So let's get to the root of the problem. God gave me this part here that I'm about to teach on. And it's from Mark 14 about the parable of the sower. And then I'm focusing more or less on the seeds that were thrown among thorns. And Jesus said, and these are they which are sown among thorns, such as hear the word in the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches and the lust of other things, entering, choke the word, and it become unfruitful. So let's really dig into the Greek words of each of these. The first one is cares, which is the Greek word merimna. which means a distraction. Then we get to deceitfulness. That's the Greek word apate, which is delusion. And then going down to the word choke, which is sum ni go, which is to strangle completely. So let's bring this all together. And these are they which are sown among thorns, such as hear the word and the cares, the distraction. Let me make sure. And the distraction of this world and the deceitfulness, which is a delusion, the delusion of riches and the lusts of other things entering in, choke, which means strangle completely, the word, the seed that is sown in every Christian, and it becomes unfruitful. So we have people that accept Jesus, the seed of God is sown in them. But since their focus is on this world, what they got to do, the pattern set by generations before, the cares of this world, they come in and they choke that word that was sown by Jesus. And since the focus then is on the worldly things, the focus is off God. So the person can't grow in God when their focus is on the things that they have to do in this world. So not only are Christians being distracted from God, and the seed sown in them is strangled and they become unfruitful, but they are distracted from their spouse and also their families, their kids. Believers can say love is important when finances are in place. Now, this puts Christians in a set worldly pattern that generations before have followed. And this is a delusion. This leads into a delusion. So we have at the beginning that the cares of this world, which is a distraction, and the deceitfulness, the delusion of riches. You know, somebody at a young age that could be a Christian. You know, they are told to go to school to pursue a certain career, and they go to do that. What is the purpose? Money. They want to make a lot of money. So there you have the delusion of riches that's in mind. And this goal is set before each person, world and Christian alike. And this is the goal that they're attained to. Now, if this is the goal, where is God? How is God the focus? How is God being pursued when this is set before each man and woman? And this is what the problematic area is that the seed that is sown in Christians is virtually forgotten. You know, yeah, maybe they'll read the word, they'll go to church, but that's the stopping point. You know, the ultimate focus is doing what they have to do in this world. That is what they're thinking. But since what they have to do in this world is foremost in their mind, and God is virtually forgotten, you know, and the seed is strangled. You know, my question and the purpose of my ministry and my teachings are to show Christians this is what you're taking in. This is what you're following. You know, and I really try to emphasize the fact that what does God want? Have you heard him? Do you know what his will is for your life? If you don't know any of those things and you can't hear God, then that shows that what's foremost in your mind is the set pattern that has been set by generations before, family, friends, influences at church. So let's see. So I had already said is that the delusion of riches and the cares of this world strangle the word that's placed in every believer. With these set goals in their minds, they are distracted. The seed in them that's set by God with the intended purpose to grow is choked by worldly law, the worldly focus, goals to make money, goals to be rich. Also, with the focus being on these things, spouse and family is forgotten. Now, in close, I understand what it's like, of course, to be in this world, and I understand the fears of what causes people to pursue the route to where they're not in need. You know, you don't want to be homeless. So this is the last thing that you want to do. You want to do whatever you can to take control of your situation to where you won't be. And the risk, there is a lot at stake when you're doing this, because you don't know what God has for you. And I like I had said, I understand the fear. I understand, why people pursue what they do. But that's the issue. But now, questions people may have, with me teaching everything, me showing them that, they're following a delusion, the set pattern they have followed, it needs to stop. So when that is taken away, man is left with, what do I do? So people will question, what can I do then? Bills aren't going to pay themselves if I am to focus on God and family. 2, how will my needs be taken care of? 3, how will my family survive? Like I understand these questions, because every man and woman follows them. But you are thinking the worst thoughts without God in them. You are operating in a set pattern you have grown accustomed to. You have learned that you are the provider, the supporter, and the main breadwinner from people. Now, in order to break this thinking, it means to surrender your will to God and give him the keys. Give him the driver's wheel. Let him sit in the driver's seat. And then you must learn to hear God's voice and be led by him only. Get on the path of relying on him. And lastly, let him, through everything that was, taught, let him through these show you the thinking believers have taken in. And so what I really wanted to try to do in this video is to show you what has taken precedence over love. And, with the focus being on the delusion of riches in this world, then it has taken people off the path that God has intended for them. If the focus is so much on finances and what people have to do in this world, then the focus is off what God wants. What's more important as a Christian? Doing what God wants, or continuing to follow the way the world does things? That is the purpose of these videos, is to really expose the thinking for what it is, to show people the garbage that they have taken in and what they can do to change it. So thank you for taking the time to watch, and I will seek God about what to teach on next.